Hello guys, and welcome to the video. So today we're going to be talking about Summoner's War Reloaded. Summoner's War Reloaded is I would say it's pretty anticipated. It's highly anticipated. I mean, anyone who's playing Summoner's War right now is pretty excited for the Doomsday Clock to finish ticking, so we can finally see what this is all about. But I think at the very least, in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple predictions. I just want to make 3 predictions. The first two, the first one I'm not really with entirely, but it would be interesting. The second one, I'm completely with. And the third one is what I believe it's going to be the most likely scenario. At the end of the day, I could be completely wrong. I have no information on Summoner's War Reloaded. Obviously, I don't work for Comtuos. But I think this is just a fun thing. This is something I was thinking about doing. And at least I just thought, it's like, I put it out there. Either you guys like it or you don't. But let's get into it. So the number one prediction, I think, this is, again, not the greatest prediction, but I feel like if we're going to predict something, we have to at least take a look at, like, what's happening here. Like, what's happening with the background, right? So this top background art up here, right here, I think is fairly interesting. It doesn't look like any monster I've seen in the game. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm wondering if it is a new homunculus. That's my first prediction. Maybe they're adding like a new homunculus, but that wouldn't, I don't think, would warrant a super big thing like this, right? But it's like, this looks like a homunculus of some sort, or like almost like the Ifrits. But this looks like a homunculus, and I just was wondering if this is something we're going to be getting. Maybe this is an entirely different like grade of monster, so it's not like the same as like getting a monster from a scroll or getting like a Nat 5, but maybe it's a different monster entirely, like a different type. Maybe it's almost like the same rules that the homunculus follows, where you can't really use it in like RTA or whatever, if I recall, but you can use it in like PvE or whatever. So maybe like something like this, who knows, maybe we get it. We get like this type of, how do you say, like a character that you could build, like from the ground up, and then it benefits you in some sort of way, like via like extra stats or bonuses, and it's just like, or maybe it's just a cool background, who knows, but I at least wanted to throw that out there before we get into the second one, because again, it's like we have no idea, but it's like, you look at this, and it's just like, you get the question mark, even though that looks like it looks like one of the cookie run monsters. But it's just like, it's very odd to see this monster. This monster looks dope. Can I download this? No, I can't. Or at least I can't directly. But let's get into the actual prediction. I'll be honest, I only have 2 real predictions. So you're going to hear me say reloaded or reloading a lot. That's just my coin term that I'm going to be using throughout the video. So the first reloaded update that I would believe might be the case is them adding monster traits. So not just like their skill set, their kit, but like adding a trait that is very specific to the monster. So for example, maybe you reload Fraun. You get Fraun the 6-star, she's max level. Like that, those would be like the requirements to reload a monster. And then once you do that, Fraun comes back, maybe has a cool different little like border or whatever, and then she has, again, this extra trait where, for example, Fraun's access heals become shields, right? And then each monster has their very own trait. So it's like no other monster will have the same exact trait as Fraun, right? So only Tron has the access heals become shields. And I think this would probably be very beneficial when you think about it. Maybe not each monster has the same quality of traits. Maybe one monster has like a okay trait and another one has a completely broken one. But like, again, for example, for Fraun, when you start off in the battle, it's like more likely than not you're going to click her 3rd skill so she can put the immunity and the attack buff, and it's just like, that's a healing skill at the end of the day, and the first heal really doesn't do anything. So for her to be able to add shields on top of that, and not only that, for her second skill, where she could add shields if she overheals an ally, based on a specific amount of the healing, maybe like 20%, 30%, or 50%, I think that'd be pretty crazy. I know it might seem broken, maybe, Maybe it's just, it means nothing to some people. But I have another one here. For example, Vertiheal. What if Vertiheal's special trait, when you reload him, he increases the attack bar of himself by 5% for every ally that benefits from his passive. So let's say, like you go and do like the Tricario, you have 3 other allies, the Icarus, that are there benefiting from his passive. Maybe he gets an additional 15% on top of his attack bar boost. Or maybe his entire team benefits from that. I don't know. Or maybe reloading a unit will slightly boost the characters based on their already existing kits. Maybe that happens. For example, let's say Lucian, when you reload him, not just his third skill, but all of his attacks ignore a portion of the enemy's defense. Now, I'm not going to say every single skill should ignore 100% of the enemy's defense, but let's just say his skill 1 ignores like 20% of the enemy's defense. His skill 2 does 50%, and his skill 3 remains the same, ignoring all of the enemy's defense. That could be pretty big for some people. It would help make certain runs more faster, maybe going into giants. He's using his second skill on that mid-boss. Who knows? Maybe it could be very beneficial. Or thinking about another unit like Darien, where when you reload him, over time, the damage reduction he takes, or the damage reduction he has, increases as Darien takes damage, up to 15 or 20% more damage reduction. So his already existing damage reduction, which is like 30%, and on top of that, you're adding that 15 or 20%, however much, and that's every time he takes damage. So he would have to be the one that takes damage, but it would benefit the team greatly, right? It'd be pretty powerful, right? But that was the first prediction, right? It's like you're able to change monsters around, and you can spend many hours trying to come up with monster traits for each unit, which would seem like a pretty big deal now that you think about it. You go to every monster, and everyone's now testing out all these monsters, seeing what traits they have, because it could make monsters who are pretty mediocre OP, or it could turn. It could really change a lot of people's strategies. Who knows what type of effect it would have on the game? We would have to actually see it happen for us to be able to judge whether it's a good one or not. But the other one that I was thinking about, I'm still on prediction number on this prediction, where it's instead of maybe each monster having its own specific trait, maybe they have general traits. So it's just like, for example, all of supports get access to the excess heals, right? So Jasun, Lulu, Fran can all, benefit from the extra heals turn into shields type thing. Or maybe applying a buff over an existing buff increases the duration. So for example, if all your allies already have an attack buff, and then Fran applies another attack buff via her third skill, instead of that attack buff being there for like 2 or 3 turns, it's now there for like 4 turns. Because you get the existing number and add it to the new number, and there's an increased buff count. And the same could be for applying debuffs, where it's like debuffs last longer. Or when you look at attackers, maybe attackers get to pick from a different list of traits. For example, maybe attackers get to add an extra hit to their attacks. So this might not seem super big when you look at like Lapis, where like Lapis already has so many multi-hits. One extra isn't really too crazy. But then when you look at units like Crow, where he does his third skill, it's like he can turn that into 2 hits. So that third skill actually becomes super duper powerful. And it's, again, a trait you could pick from. You would reload the monsters. By the way, on top of this, I would have to assume that reloading a monster would require some type of currency. You can't just do it willy-nilly. It would be like the same as like needing rainbow mons, or maybe having to farm something almost like a 2A dungeon. But hopefully it doesn't need its own energy source, like 2A energy. But getting off of the monster traits, here's my third and final prediction for what Summoners War Reloaded might be, and I feel like this is the most likely, where you will be able to reload your runes. Essentially, once your runes are plus 15, You can reload them. Maybe it costs a absurd amount of mana, like maybe 1,000,000 mana for each one. I don't know. But you would be able to reload your runes. And each rune, dependent on the type of rune it is, would have its own trait. So I wrote down a couple, and we're not going to go too deep into it. But for example, let's say you reload your energy runes. Maybe an energy rune's reloaded trait is it heals your monster's HP by 5% of their max HP for every reloaded energy rune that they have at the top of every turn, right? So every turn, heal 5% of their max HP per reloaded energy rune, which might seem crazy, might not. I mean, most people, if they still do use energy runes in the late game, they only have really 2 of them on, which would only heal them by 10%, but that's still a pretty big heal. But I think that'd be pretty interesting. Maybe vampire, for example, vampire runes. When you attack, again, think about like this: your Lapis or whichever of your units goes into Fame into Farm. It's like when they first start attacking, they're not gonna really heal off of anything. They're at full health. But if they attack with vampire runes, maybe the extra lifesteal, like 20% of it, gets turned into a one-turn shield for them, and it disappears by their next turn. Destroy runes. This one I thought was pretty interesting. Destroyed enemies' HP is added onto the monster that applied the destroy effect. So if my monster that has destroy runes on it destroys for, let's say, 1,000 of the enemy's HP, that 1,000 HP would be added on top of my monster's HP for the duration of the battle, which would seem pretty cool. I think that would be pretty cool. The last example I have, and from here we'll wrap things up, is that focus runes. When the ally, again, focus runes being reloaded will go as follows, or will be put as follows. When the ally applies a debuff, if the debuff already exists, add on the new debuff count on top of the existing one. So again, if Sath places dots, for example, Sath the Fire Grim Reaper places dots on the enemy, and he places it for 2 turns, if my Melias go next and they have focus runes, existing dots will turn into 4 dots. Or I guess that it wouldn't really apply too well with dots, maybe, because they'd be adding new dots, but it could do that as well. But let's say you, for example, have Crow, and he brands the enemy, right? He brands the enemy for 2 turns, and then another ally comes in, and they also have a branding. If they land the branding as well, the duration of that debuff will increase, up to like 3 or 4, whichever, depending. But I think that would be pretty interesting. That, or is just, instead of just like having to use the exact same debuff, so instead of having to have the exact same debuff, maybe it's just like, hey, yeah, they have the focus runes, it's reloaded, every single debuff on the enemy increases by 1, regardless if it's the same debuff or not. I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm just excited for Reloaded. I have no idea what's going on, and it's like, I think this is a pretty cool idea. I mean, these are crazy ideas. It's probably stupid, but those are my predictions. I would like to think that if we do get it and I'm correct about my predictions, I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna be laughing so hard. But at the very least, I want to get it out there. These are my predictions. 1, again, to summarize it, 1, we might get a new, not succubus. Why was I thinking succubus? Homunculus in the craft building. 2, we get monster traits, which each monster can have their own individual traits or general traits. Or 3, which is the one I like the most, is where you will be able to reload your runes, and your runes gain special traits dependent on that. So it's like a secondary trait. Or again, it's just like with the monster ones, maybe there's general traits that you could add onto your runes. Who knows? But if it's something as small as like adding homunculus to the craft building, I'm gonna be disappointed a little bit. I'll be honest. But I don't know. I'm interested in what other people think that the Reloaded might have to offer. It's cool and all to wait and all that, but I'd like to see what people might be able to come up with. It's pretty interesting. It really, I feel like, shows a lot of the creativity of people in the community. So if you have your own idea of what Reloaded might be, put it down in the comment section. Who knows? But if you made it all the way through the end and you managed to stay here through all my ramblings, by all means, I thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.